Hello, today we're going to be talking about 22 LR versus 22 Magnum. Not going to do any shooting, we just options you have and what situations one is better than the other. If we're talking plinking, 22 LR definitely takes the upper hand for availability. Endless options from a single action 22 LR pistol to a 22 LR AR like build you would have, and endless conversion kits to shoot 22 LR out of basically anything. It's one of the most popular calibers out there. It's been around since 1887. Continue to go in popularity. For most people, it's their first firearm that they shoot. It was for me when I got into firearms as a kid. And now, if we're talking small game hunting, the velocity that 22 Magnum has at at 100 yards, it's greater than what I typically shoot small game with, being the Aguila, 1,200 feet per second, and this is going to be traveling at 1,400 after 100 yards. So good stuff here. Comparing this to CCI Stinger, which is this just shows how much more options you have with 22 LR, because you can go from cheap bulk pack all the way to premium CCI Stingers and everything in between.
Stingers.
Yeah. Have you shot a lot of 22 Magnum?
I have not, but that's mostly because a lot of people A, either don't know it exists, or B, there's so many limited options to shoot them out of that there's maybe like one for every 6 or 7 people that I know.
Because I've only shot 22 Magnum out of bolt actions, and I have never owned a 22 Magnum. That's going to change soon, but I just want to make this video out there just because there's such limited option, and it's like, if it was more popular, I would think it would be better, but because it's not, that kind of goes against it, right? But performance is definitely there. So comparing this being 30 grain, traveling at 2,200 feet per second at the muzzle, CCI Stinger, so that's a 600 feet per second difference there.
Which is something interesting to just throw out there. The 5.7 out of the FN 5.7 is traveling at the same velocity with a 4.5-inch barrel that out of a, I believe it's a 16-inch barrel. So kind of interesting that, but the reason for that is this has a slower burning powder than the 5.7. So a lot of people try to make the comparison, but 5.7 is definitely more powerful.
If you want to get to like the self-defense side of things, I wouldn't recommend, because I know some people would, but on the revolver side of things and pocket-sized pistols, there's not a lot of options out there for like a higher round count revolver. I don't know of any on the market that has like a 12-shot 22 Magnum double action only. Like, that would be a great like backup, or a great
like a swing out cylinder.
Yeah.
Especially
that would be cool.
Like multiple different like barrel lengths, like a 6-inch, a 4.5, and then like a 3-inch. I would buy probably 2 of those.
That would be cool. And then looking at the full size 22 Magnum pistols, there are some out there. Celtic came out with one. I don't remember the exact name, but they came out with one like last shot show. I haven't gotten to shoot it, but from all accounts, it's a fine pistol. And it goes again, there are not a lot of semi-auto rifles or pistols available in 22 Magnum. Like Ruger 1022 has not come out in 22 Magnum since like 06, and that was due to lack of sales, not anything to do with performance. And then for what else is on the market, CZ has an offering that's like $450, $500 for a rifle and semi-auto. Bolt actions are still available, still popular for small game hunting, but again, limited options. And as far as what you can do with it, what 22LR can't really do, we're talking if you take it past 100 yards, you can more easily shoot a 22 Magnum beyond that. More so than a 22LR, because you don't have the comfort drop as much. You can just aim straight at where you're shooting. So very minor things, but we're talking squirrels, rabbit, you can definitely take it out 22LR past that range. I just want to make it say it would be easier, right?
Like a lot of people try to make the... All right, so here's the comparison I'm trying to make.
Go ahead.
243 is like the minimum for a deer. I would say that 22 Magnum is like the minimum for a coyote, or in some areas like even a wolf. Like it's like you're in that like dog size range caliber, and that probably sounds terrible.
Well, no, coyote. If you're like vomit control, like pest control, like that, we're talking that. We're not talking about you taking out the neighbor's dog or something.
No, do not do that. I'm trying to make the comparison of like a wolf is a big dog, coyote is kind of on the smaller dog side. So like that's the range that you get with the 22 Magnum, whereas 22 LR, I can see you taking out a Coyote for varmint control fairly easily. Like, there's so many options for the 22 LR that's the decent size, but there's a lot of areas where wolves get quite big. You know what a dire wolf is?
No.
It's like a regular wolf, but dire. So 22 Magnum is definitely more well suited to that. For larger than that, I'd say that there's better options than the 22 Magnum, but self-defense wise, the reason I brought up the 5.7 is 5.7 is more reliable. There's only really like two good options when it comes to handguns, and it's the FN 5.7 and the Ruger.
Both being full-size pistols.
So the 22 Magnum actually has an edge, weirdly enough, because there's definitely a lot more options when it comes to pistols. There's a few revolvers.
Yep.
Rock Island has the 22 Magnum, like they have 4 different models of 22 Magnum semi-autos. I'm not too big on Rock Island revolvers.
Yeah,
Not. Some of them are very cheap. Other ones,
the price is there, but I wouldn't use it like as a backup or a secondary pistol, because there's been issues like quality controlled issues. Mind you, it's a $200 pistol from Rock Island, so I'm not expecting too much from it. But back on topic here.
CZ,
yeah,
they have their semi-autos and then their bolt actions. Henry also has their lever action, which I love.
Henry's lever action are great, and they have a 22 Magnum, which if I was to, because right now I'm purchasing a bolt action 22 Magnum, that'd be the next on the list of what I would want over a semi-auto, because for the most part, it'd be going back and getting a used Ruger 1022 Magnum or getting a nice CZ.
I would say just go with the CZ.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming towards. Cool.
On that, so our Henry 22 LRs can shoot 22 LR, 22 long, and 22 short. Can you shoot 22 Magnum, 22 LR, 22 long, and 22 short out of the 22 Magnum?
I'm not sure. I think it can chamber. I don't know if it'll feed reliably because of just the case difference or how it's set up.
I mean, the 22 short is half the length of the 22 long rifle, so I don't know.
Once we get it, we'll test it out.
Yeah. That's something that I kind of want to see, because if that's an option, then I might change my tune and make the 22 Magnum Henry lever action the best option, because it's about the same price. I think it's like, what, $50 more? Maybe $60 more than the standard one that I got, which I got like the
I would have to see, because like the prices online are not typically what would be in stores. Online it says like MSRP of $500. So like if we're talking, it's gonna be like $450 in stores, maybe, not sure, and then that would put it very close to what the 22 LR Henry is.
Yeah, so I mean that might be a very valid option, and like you said with the 22 Magnum, there isn't a whole lot of variety. There's a decent variety. You got like your ballistic.
That's kind of the only thing that holds it back as far as small game hunting. There's ammo selection. But as far as outside of bolt action 22 Magnums, that's typically what they do well in.
And which is unfortunate, because...
And then we would have to see what the velocity would be out of a pistol, because I would imagine you would lose a lot of velocity out of like a 4 or 5 inch barrel.
Oh,
and that's kind of what a pocket... That's the idea of this, of being light recoil, easy to shoot. You can put it in anyone's hand and they'll be able to shoot it. That's the idea of having a rimfire 22. But I don't know what velocity you would achieve with a shorter barrel with this. How much are you sacrificing...
Which 22 LR and 22 Magnum both have slower burning powders because they're meant for rifles. 22 short, I'm not too sure. I'm not going to say anything on that because I just don't know. It did perform decently out of my full-length 22 LR Henry.
Yeah.
So I got to assume that maybe it's a little bit slow burning itself, or maybe it just has enough velocity. I don't know. 22 long is just obsolete, but I believe it might also be slower burning powders.
Well, that's from my video, but again with that, it's like what you're looking to do with the round itself. Like with 22 short, there's nothing I couldn't do with 22 short that I could with 22 long. Well,
and then if there's anything that you need more than just use 22 long rifle.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Ray did a good point, which not a lot of people won't agree because a lot of people do like 40 Smith & Wesson, but it's like it's something that on paper it's like, oh, it's the best of both worlds, but it doesn't fit either role like better than the other two.
You don't get the performance of 22 LR, but you don't get like the cheapness or the availability or the like cap gun effect of 22 short.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't get the capacity of 9 or like the smooth or heavier projectiles of the 45 with the 40 Smith & Wesson. People are probably going to tear me apart because there's a lot of 40 Smith & fanboys out there. It's cool. You can like what you like. Hey, you got one over on me. 9mm is unobtainium. 45 is unobtainium. Your ammo is basically still on the shelves in a lot of places. I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I am a little bit, but like at the same time, I understand you kind of got the best of both worlds, but you also got the worst of both worlds.
You also have the compromise of both.
Yeah.
At the same time, so it's like whatever. In closing,
in the 22 long side, 22 LR is so prevalent. There's so many options. 22 short, there's not as many options as 22 LR, but there's still more than 22 long.
You would be able to use the same revolvers, the same, like, lever action. So there's a lot of crossover there. With this, there isn't as much crossover or any at all. And it's those options that hold this caliber back. But the popularity, I would say it's not going away, but I wouldn't say it's rising either. Manufacturers still coming out with new rifles and pistols for 22 Magnum.
Like, it's not going anywhere, but it's also not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's there.
And I think one of the things that holds it back is just like 30 carbine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long, straight-walled case. I think these have a slight taper to them to help with feeding and extraction, whereas 30 carbine, I think, doesn't really. But it's still very straight-walled, which extraction and feeding, it's not going to do too hot, especially in semi-autos. And I think that's why there aren't so many. But the CZ, it's got like, if we're talking about the same one, is it the tube fed or the magazine fed?
Magazine fed.
I believe it's got like a feed angle going on, and
there was
got a little bit of some juju.
There was some R&D.
I think is a little bit better.
They had some R&D to it. Like they didn't just take their 22 LR and then just switch it over for 22 Magnum. There was some research development to make it for 22 Magnum.
Is it the one that uses the rotary mags, or is it the straight mag?
Straight mags.
Yeah, that's because I think we're talking about the same one, and it's got like this steep feed angle on the magazine to account for the fact that the way that it loads is to account for the rim, so it's feeding straight in. So there isn't like any angle, whereas if you wanted to load it like a 9mm mag, where you can either have like a straight single stack or like a slight curve, it doesn't really work. And that's probably why it isn't in a whole lot of, semi-autos.
Yeah.
Like you have to work around that. 22 LR, it's short enough to where you don't get as much of a taper going on, so you can get rotary mags or slightly curving stick mags, but a lot of those are still single stack. Your BX 25 magazines, those have a slight curve, but they're all single stack as well, whereas the one for the CZ, it's kind of like a pistol mag.
And then with that, it depends on who you talk to about the BX 25 magazines. I like them. I typically don't have like reliability issues with using proper, like, just ball ammo through it. But some people do. Like
the shitty Pro Mag clear ones. Clear magazines, we had another video.
Yeah.
But clear magazines, they don't tend to work too well just because the material isn't very good. But the Pro Mag ones, hit or miss. The Ruger brand BX25s, I feel work very well.
Yeah. I've had people tell me that they don't like them and they have reliability issues with them, but I haven't really. But we'll leave it at that. 22 Magnum is good. 22 LR is good. They both are good in their own respect. But as far as if you wanted to reach out farther, you can do that with 22 Magnum that you couldn't with 22 LR. That's really the only difference. For like velocities out of a short nose barrel, we'd have to do our own testing. Because I've seen people do it, but there's so many variables between just different ammos and different
which we can definitely find. I am almost positive I have seen a Gila 22 Magnum. So hopefully when like the shortage ends, or if we can find some online, we're going to do a Gila versus a Gila, or we're going to do a CCI versus CCI. And probably like do standard CCI 22LR, CCI 22LR stingers, and then the CCI 22 Magnums, and we're just gonna see what we get. In fact, since they're so similar, we might even be able to load all three into the same firearm. I plan on getting the Rock Island 22 Magnum semi-auto. I haven't heard anything bad about it. I haven't really seen too many reviews on it. I think it's kind of just flying under the radar. I was kind of interested in the Automag 22, but I don't feel like spending nearly $1,000 for a gun that has basically no like accessory support, no product support. So, but that's another thing for the future. Plans coming. We'll do some tests. We'll see what's going on right here.
All right. Thank you guys for watching.
Have a nice day.